Disney will pay $233 million to settle a class action representing more than 50,000 allegedly underpaid Disneyland workers. The minimum wage was never intended for anybody to live off of. That is not what minimum wage is. If you were having trouble meeting the mark, then maybe you, the employee, were doing something wrong. Renegade Online. This was a story that we covered several months ago when it came out. There was this... Disney is always walking into landmines, it seems, always getting sued, and, of course, settling out of court is always where they seem to want to go. Most big companies, they don't want to engage in a full-on legal battle, especially if it looks less than favorable for them. And this perhaps was one of those. Disney has reached, according to THR, which we'll be featuring a couple of articles tonight from them, reaches a $233 million settlement in the minimum wage lawsuit. This story came out yesterday. The class action accused the entertainment giant of Disney of refusing to follow an Anaheim, as in Anaheim, California. So we're talking about Disneyland out here. Minimum wage law passed in 2018. After a 5-year legal battle of claims of dodging minimum wage requirements, Disney will pay $233 million to settle a class action representing more than 50,000 allegedly underpaid Disneyland workers. And you know me, I hate the term worker. It's a very left-wing, very Marxist term. Because the reason I hate it when that word is used, because what it's meant to do is suggest that white-collar folk, executives, management, ownership doesn't work, right? They sit around like capitalist fat cats doing nothing and just living off the benefits of all of their poor slave labor. I hate the word workers. It is used deliberately and offensively. So just pointing that out. It should just say Disneyland employees. Employees. That's it. In a statement, Randy Rennick, a lawyer representing the employees, there we go, said, quote, "This settlement will put significant awards in the hands of those employees and positively impact their lives as well as the health and well-being of their families." Anaheim voters' passage in 2018 of Measure L, which forced hospitality businesses that receive tax rebates to increase the minimum wage to $15 an hour, with bumps tied to inflation, and that's what sparked the lawsuit. After the initiative was approved, Disney moved to end $267 million in subsidies for a luxury hotel to evade the mandate. Josh D'Amaro, who's, of course, the head of Disney Parks and one of the folks alongside Dana Walden, although I think a distant second, to be a successor to Bob Iger. However, of course, Jim Gorman, formerly of Morgan Stanley fame, who now sits the Disney board, is head of that committee and is allegedly looking outside the company for additional CEO candidates to replace Iger. Josh D'Amaro, chairman of Disney Parks, also called to end a decades-long moratorium on entertainment taxes. Employees, not workers, filed a proposed class action in Orange County Superior Court in California, pointing to a series of deals with Anaheim in 1996, under which over $200 million in tax rebates were granted to Disney to help finance the construction of the California Adventure theme park and the parking garage. Which is interesting because, of course, in Florida, in Orlando, when Disney was running their own, and let's just call it what it is, illegally manipulating what became de facto their own private government kingdom down there, they were using taxpayer money because about 15% or so of the taxpayers in the Reedy Creek, or the former Reedy Creek Improvement District, are not Disney-owned, they are other private companies, were being forced to pay for a private parking garage to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars that was for the exclusive use of the Walt Disney Company, namely the parking garage that serves the downtown Disney, or Disney Springs, as I think it's now called. The 5 workers or employees who filed the lawsuit in Anaheim earn between $12 and $14.25 per hour working at the resort. Disney mandated, quote, that it's not covered by Measure L. It argued that the word rebate, as defined in the ordinance, is limited to the return of taxes paid by residents. The court sided with the entertainment giant Disney, finding that it doesn't enjoy a city subsidy. Last year, a state appeals court reversed the decision. A 3-judge panel of California's 4th District Court of Appeal, citing employee protections in the measure, concluded the 96 agreements constitute subsidies since they afford Disney the, quote, right to receive a return of taxes. The state Supreme Court declined to review the case. So they left it in the hands at that point of the appellate court. Disney and the lawyers representing the workers on Friday moved for a court approval of the deal. A judge will consider the agreement at a hearing next month. In a statement, Disneyland spokesperson said that all cast members, quote, make at least the Measure L requirement of $19.90 per hour. So we've gone from $15 in 2018, right? Now that has been, because according to the measure that was passed, it had to be adjusted for inflation, $19.90 per hour. That is almost a 30%, almost a 33% roughly increase since 2018. And in fact, 95% of them make more. We are pleased that this matter is nearing resolution. In July, Disney negotiated an agreement with Master Services, Disneyland's largest union, representing 13,000 cast members, that raised base pay to $24 an hour. A 2018 survey from Occidental College and Economic Roundtable found that Disneyland employees reported high instances of homelessness, food insecurity. The hell is food insecurity? Like, I don't know. I can't feed myself. You're making $15 an hour, or even, remember the minimum wage, guys and girls out there. The minimum wage was never intended for anybody to live off of. That is not what minimum wage is. That is not what it's for. Minimum wage originally was intended to have a base floor for people that had zero skill and zero job experience effectively. So they could go out and work in something to where they could start acquiring basic job skills and basic levels of experience. But if you wanted to advance beyond that, you had to, be a human being. You had to actually work to increase your value to society. You had to work to actually increase your appeal to a prospective employer. Now we'll just give you whatever you want so you can live however you want. I mean, this is what minimum wage is getting turned into. So I don't for the life of me understand how somebody is working making $14 an hour or $12 an hour back then in 2018. Forget 2024. But 6 years ago in 2018, before all of Bidenomics and Biden inflation, if you were having trouble meeting the mark, then maybe you, the employee, were doing something wrong. And this is a conversation I've had for 20 years as a professional in the financial industry. If you're 30-something years old and the only thing that you're qualified to do is something that is the most basic level of employee, minimum wage, then maybe you're doing something wrong. Maybe somewhere along the line, you made some bad decisions. And 90+% of the time, that is the case. Not all the time, right? Some people don't have any capacity to move beyond that. They might have some type of cognitive infliction, might have Down syndrome or something like this. There's only so much they can do. I get it, right? But for normally functioning adults, if you're trying to quote unquote make a living, and all you can qualify for is the most minimum wage that the government affords, then maybe there's some choices that you made that didn't work. Just a thought. But food insecurity, nearly 75% of respondents say they don't earn enough money to pay for basic expenses. Well, if you're trying to live in Anaheim, if you're trying to live in Los Angeles and you're living on minimum wage, then yes, you're definitely doing it wrong. Now, part of the problem is that a lot of these very same people that are complaining about this continue to vote for bad leadership in California, and they're getting exactly what they voted for. Food for thought. Food for thought. You voted yourself into this predicament. Period. More than 85% of union workers earn less than $15 per hour. The settlement was reached after Disney last month agreed to pay $43.25 million to settle a class action from roughly 9,000 female employees in California who accused the company of pay discrimination. The very left, the very fair, the very progressive Walt Disney Company, right? Pay discrimination for women, not following their own extreme left-wing California laws of minimum wage. Yeah. Do as I say, not as I do. It's like a lot of these Hollywood actors and Hollywood types that want to shake their finger at you about things like climate change and then sawed off in their own private jets around the world. Right. Okay, got the memo. So there you go. Disney has caved on yet something else about a week after they caved on the Donald Trump thing. You kind of have to wonder, is Disney trying to clear the decks here? Disney apparently is really, really concerned with what's going to happen in 2025. And there's a number of stories out there, including Disney dropping the LGBTQ stuff from an upcoming Disney Plus event. Really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Really makes you wonder. Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.